we have enough, we have few enough people. We could go through and introduce ourselves and kick off. What do you think, Gina? I'll let you. Oh, okay. Well, I'll let you go first anyway.
Sounds great. Hi, I'm Gina Valeria, and I am, for the purposes of this meeting, I am the communications person for CEI, and I was leading a group of students in my role as a professor of communication and media studies at Sonoma State, doing the communications piece for Rising Waters round 3 this past summer, which involved creating video and getting the website up and running.
Well, Claudia.
Hi, I'm Claudia Luke. I'm the director of the Center for Environmental Inquiry, and my capacity here is to see all the great things that the whole collaborative has been doing.
Nice. Ludmilla. We lost Ludmilla. Andy. Oh no, we didn't lose her.
Well, hi, I'm Ludmilla Bade, and I sit on a number of boards and committees about resolving homelessness. And well, I guess I have a lot in my head of it, but I'll just leave it at that.
Fair enough.
Good morning, Andy Rogers. I'm the executive director of the Russian River Watershed Association.
And one of the founders of the feast, shall we say. One of the inspirations for Rising Waters.
Proud sponsor.
Hey, Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm the Homeless Services Coordinator for the City of Rohnert Park. Nice to see everybody again.
Nice to see everybody. And Carly M, I think, is that the correct pronunciation?
Hi, good morning. It's Carrie Ann Lopez.
Carrie Ann.
I am a former environmental studies student, so I'm alumni from SSU, and I work for the Water Board. And just recently, Jacqueline had approached me for some funding information, and unfortunately, we were unable to help her. We have larger grant sizes, but so I'm here as a former student and someone in the industry that is working on these things. So just interested to see the project.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And Carrie, I don't know if she can talk. She might be driving at the moment. So Carrie will join us later and can introduce herself.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I am in transit. Sorry about that. Internet doesn't want to cooperate this morning. I'm on my way to a coffee shop to join you all visually as well. But I am Carrie Winninger, and I'm the outreach lead with CEI. And I also work with Chris to make Rising Waters happen and work with all these fabulous academics, industry, nonprofit, and these amazing community partners that we have. So I'm really excited that you all are here today to see what these teams have done and get feedback for the coming year.
Thank you. And Oliver?
Oliver, are you there?
Oh.
No. Okay. Well, thank you all. I guess he's trying to say something, but it's very difficult, maybe. Anyway, well, let's charge ahead. We have a couple of folks with us that haven't seen this before. So, whoops, give me a second here. I'm going to try to share my screen and whoops. Sure. I'll share my screen and run a slideshow. And this is just to get us on the same page. And for those folks that haven't seen the whole program before, to kind of get them grounded. It'll be a bit like drinking from a fire hose. It's going to be about 10 or 15 minutes because we really want to get to this year. But if there's anything unclear, feel free to yell or shout or let me know. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is just a brief overview of where we've been. And as everybody knows, there's urgent issues everywhere, and you know, students and faculty and society really need to work together to solve some of these issues. And our goal at CEI is really to create an environmentally, what we're calling an environmentally ready society. And the point to that is not that we've solved all of the issues. The point is that faculty and students and community members and government agencies are all kind of pulling on the same oar. They can apply their skills to whatever issue is out there, and they can work together. And so this is not only science students, but it's philosophy students and political science students and communications majors, and getting people to talk to each other and see each other as people in these challenging times. It's turning out to be one of the tougher parts of this process. And our role at CEI is really to serve as a go-between between agencies and the community and faculty and students. And so the community might come up with, let's study how to improve water quality. And that's a very nebulous goal, laudable goal. And we try to break it down into bite-sized pieces for faculty and students, and then feed it back to the community. And so strengthen those bonds and break those silos down that probably shouldn't exist as much as they do. So this Rising Waters is part of the Waters Collaborative, which started off, gosh, this must be at least 10 years ago now, between Sonoma Water and the Center for Environmental Inquiry. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Waters Collaborative other than to say we've had many, many projects, many thousands of students. This slide's actually a few years old now, various partners and many faculty per year. And a lot of these students have gone on into either local companies or various and organizations regionally. And one of the things the students learn is how to be part of a team and how to incorporate different perspectives and how to really engage on these soft skills, because you're actually thrown into a project you know nothing about and you have to learn about it. And that makes our students very valuable for the industry and allows them to contribute to their communities. So I'm going to skip a few of those projects. And the Rising Waters Initiative really came about, was the brainchild of several people, including Andy, who's on the call, and Michael Thompson, who is just recently retired from Sonoma Water. And the idea was how to really get a community and a university focused on complex issues that are at the intersection of water issues. And so we eventually decided to start this Rising Waters process, and we focus on issues at the intersection of homelessness and water quality. And it's not only you know, the fact that, you know, people imagine that homeless encampments can influence water quality, but it's also how do we help homeless individuals to get clean water, to get sanitation, as is enshrined in California law, and they've adopted the UN Charter of everyone having the right to clean water. And so there's a feedback loop there where we as a community are going to help homeless people, and it's how do we effectively do that. So the purpose of this slide is just to give folks on the call that haven't been exposed to this a little bit of background. The discussions, the what should we do, started in fall 2018. And it took a full 2 years to have public workshops, to brainstorm, to narrow the questions down, where we first awarded small grants to faculty and students to work in this area. And so it's been going for about 3 years now. So I'm gonna briefly review what we found, and then we're gonna present the plan going forward. So where are we now? Kind of where we've been and where are we now? We broke the initial focus of the effort into a few different questions. And the first question was, where are services needed to reduce water quality impacts? And for the first 2 years, I think, we chose to focus on resource mapping instead of impact location mapping. And what that means is we thought it would better serve the community if we mapped where experiencing homelessness are located, where restrooms are located, where showers are located, where bathrooms are located. And that is because it's not only useful, it not only helps reduce impact in the riparian areas, but there was a concern that if we started real-time mapping where people needed help, there's a danger you can get, shall we say, enthusiastic community members driving down to quote unquote help. And so we wanted to avoid that minefield. So we spent quite a bit of time collecting field data for mapping resources. We've outlined some plans to provide online security, for example, blurring locations. If we do end up documenting impacts, we want to blur locations, we want to blur faces that are online so people can't be identified. And because we have so many different agencies working in these areas, we thought it was best to provide a collaborative online tool. And so this is kind of our first cut at that. This particular effort was led by Dr. David Sewell. And we initially were going with a GIS type of tool. And these little dots show 2 cities where students went out and found bathrooms and water fountains and showers and put them on a map, an interactive map. And so we've identified how long that takes to do. And we've also identified another approach rather than GIS, which I will talk to later. And at the moment, we've identified costs, and we're going to search for an agency to actually hold the license. And holding the license doesn't necessarily incur any cost. It's just an official, formal placeholder for the software license. And this will allow various agencies to collaborate, and also citizens to go out and take pictures of bathrooms or impacts and upload them to a database real time. And so to make collaboration a little bit easier. So the second question we looked at was barriers to providing services to people experiencing homelessness. And we refined that a little bit into a case study of the cost of providing sanitation services, including the do nothing option. And we're still looking to get businesses involved. And the idea here is that, you know, as I said, providing sanitation, providing clean water is a human right. And also noting that the do nothing option, I mean, as humans, we tend to avoid problems and do nothing without realizing that that is an actual choice. And we had Professor Arminsky and 2 master's students lead this study. And this has actually been submitted to journals. It was very, very well done. And the point here is that the do nothing option can have significant costs. There are a number of different sanitation solutions you can provide, but you should do something. And we've shared these results with the continuum of care. And for example, if you do nothing, you can end up with having to clean up hazardous waste, for example, or it leads to health risks, not only for individuals experiencing homelessness, but for the community. And so the do nothing choice is really, you're kicking the can down the road, I guess was the point. And so I've also shared this study with a few of the board of supervisors, and so they're aware of it in their ongoing discussions of this problem. Question 3, and this was really championed, I think, in large part by Andy, who has a way of really synthesizing the universe in a really, really interesting way. And it was, how can we better align investments across all sectors? And that's a huge question, and we needed to start off understanding what the problem is. And so we had a team of first-year philosophy students actually begin to develop an inventory of organizations across the county that work on homeless issues, work on water issues that are affected by these issues. And it's not only organizations that spend money trying to help, but it's organizations that donate time, or that are affected, or that work with other people. And the idea was just to understand the playing field, and then to present this inventory in a quote unquote knowledge map, so you can look at it graphically and understand what's going on. Don's just joined us. Oops. So I think we're over 200 or 250 organizations now that were interviewed. And, we've also provided this information to some of the supervisors. And we've come up with some layouts, and the layouts are very complicated because it's like a giant spider graph where different organizations do different bits and pieces, and there's some overlap. And, I've thought about quite a bit with some professors at SSU, presenting these in a simplified knowledge map layout. But the problem is that it's so complicated that if I present a statistical map that, some of us statistics folks would understand, it would take half an hour to explain to folks. And so there's a lot of information there, and I'm happy to take suggestions on this. But 2 points came out of this. One is education is key, even on advocates and stakeholders. One of the things the students pointed out is that even among folks who are trying to address these issues, there are still misconceptions. One of those, for example, being that individuals are migrating to Sonoma County so that they can be homeless because the benefits are so good. And so that led to our media study and our education study, which I'll get to. And the other thing that's been identified is the flexible funding approach is a major stumbling block. So if you have an organization and you've gotten money to do a specific thing to resolve an issue, you're not allowed to transfer it to another organization, even if they're doing the same thing and it would help. So there's a few political, I guess, changes that we need to make. So this leads to the NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And this is a great picture because this took place, I think, during the beginning of COVID, if I can remember correctly, but the neighbors ended up not having a problem with the homeless shelters at Finley Community Center. In fact, they thought they were really well run, they were well maintained, they were clean, there were rules around them. And so this just is one of the counterexamples I like to give to people about how a neighborhood can actually be involved and part of the solution. And so the social media campaign, I'm going to let Professor Gina Valeria talk about this a little bit more later, but things we've developed, a public relations plan, a website, as Gina said, some interviews and media posts. And the idea is that if you're going to have a discussion of homelessness in a city council meeting or in a board of supervisors meeting, that having some of these things available to look at, or playing a video of someone that works in this field, before the meeting, can possibly be a way of defuse tensions or to get the community on board. And I'll let her talk more about that going forward. And then finally, and this effort's led by Professor Jackie Guilford. We started water quality sampling after COVID. And the idea was not only to establish a link between encampments and water quality issues. And the idea is that if you can prove a link, then it provides ammunition to actually obtaining sanitation stations and bathrooms and showers, but also what kind of water are individuals experiencing homelessness exposed to, because we know that the creeks flow through areas that have a lot of fertilizer in them, for example, a lot of farms, a lot of wineries. And so if you look at it through that lens, then it also provides ammunition to provide water fountains and showers. And both of those lead to helping resolve both the water quality issues and the helping individuals experiencing homelessness. And Jackie will talk more about that. Jackie and her students recently won the Casco Award for their work, Outstanding Stormwater Science Project or Program. And I'd like to point out, Jackie's been developing a lower cost method for testing for bacteroides. And instead of, a few $1,000s per sample, I think it's down to like 50 or something like that, but she will address that a little bit more. Okay, that was a fire hose. That was a quote unquote brief update. Should I take any questions, any thoughts, or should I just charge on to what we'd like to do this year in task 1? Anybody?
I just wanted to say congratulations on the award. I hadn't heard that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, they've done a lot of good work. And I think the developing the new test is really powerful, because I know that some of the agencies in the area are starting to test for bacteroides, and instead of farming it out, there's a real possibility of getting students involved in doing this. It'll be very exciting. Okay, I guess I will charge on. It's too bad Sean's not here, because we could have an interesting discussion about mapping. So task 1 update. There we go. Okay, so going forward. So instead of GIS, we identified this platform, this online platform called Ushahidi. And Ushahidi is incredibly powerful. They are also a nonprofit. And their mission is to help communities, help cities, help nonprofits change the world. I mean, literally, that's their mission. They raise funding for it. And they take care of making sure that the display on your phone is readable, and the display on your Mac computer is readable, the display on your Windows computer is readable, all those interfaces. And they also take care of security issues for you. So you can have citizens upload observations of whatever they see, and see where all the bathrooms are. And at the same time, if there's information you think only agencies should see, then you can have only agency users be able to see that information. And so it's really a community agency collaborative tool. And they've used it for everything from hurricane relief to documenting violence to getting food to people. And so we really like this. We stood it up. Mark Gondry did this with a student. They just ran an instance on what we're calling a virtual machine, a computer they had in their lab. And so they just wanted to demonstrate that it's incredibly functional, and it can handle the various iPhones and Android phones and computer systems. And so we're very happy with Ushahidi. And this, just as an example, is from Italy. It's just one of the example projects they have. And this is almost exactly what we'd like to do. This is countrywide, but this is a map of resources in Italy for emergency response. And so it's food, medicine, and other subsistence goods. And so these centers, if you click on any one of these dots, you get the location, you get what they'd like to have, you get what they provide, you get how to contact them. And so it's very similar to what we'd like to do. And they have a number of partners, just like we do, contributing. So there's a model out there that really works. And the reasons to choose hosted ushahidi. And what I mean by hosted is you establish this on the ushahidi platform. It's your project. And you want to choose a hosted version because they take care of all the details as technology changes. You don't have to worry about it. You don't need staffing time. You don't need to train people in it. All of that is behind the scenes. And it allows you to interface with other people. And so, for example, if we start making this map of bathrooms and water fountains, we've gotten some interest from the tourism board to say, hey, we really like that. People that come to Sonoma County really want to see this. And we can just share it with them. We can just say, okay, anybody that wants to see where the bathrooms are, log in with this. This is what the public facing display will be. And it allows us to encourage them to join our collaboration. So it opens up possibilities because all the security is handled behind the scenes. And so it really makes this approach more powerful. And it also allows us to engage citizens. And finally, the most important thing is it supports open source tool development. So if we decide that we would actually like to take pictures of impacts to creeks and post them to our project, we can write our own little script that will blur the location, the exact location to most people of the impact of the creek. And so there might be some security issues in the future that we just want to add our own little doodads to. So it's a very, very powerful tool. Whoops, sorry. And so what I'd like to do this coming year is to have what I call a stakeholder strategy meeting, or a come to Jesus meeting, as it were. And the idea is to identify which organizations should hold the license. I mean, should it be Continuum of Care, or should it be the Department of Emergency Management? How should the approval system be set up? And so the approval system, so a person holds the license, but then you want to have a couple of folks that approve posts. If a citizen takes an observation, you'd like to have somebody say, yes, this is okay, and we can add it to the project. You don't want it to be flooded with people just dumping irrelevant observations into the project. And how to set up and measure impact. How do we know we're making a difference? How do we know it's useful? How do we follow along with that? And one of the beautiful things about this particular tool is they've been through this many, many times. And so there's a series of toolboxes they actually have that are quite good. I mean, I've been doing this kind of software thing for, gosh, over 35 years now, and I'm really, really impressed with the questions and the tools they have you steer through this. And so this is the plan going forward, is to get the stakeholders involved and to identify someone to hold the license. Now, the cost is interesting, and I'm just going to mention it here. For a small organization, small being under $250,000 operating budget, or a cause that they really, really, really agree with, Ushahidi will provide this for free. For other organizations that have more money, they are, quote unquote, rejigging their prices at the moment, but my guess is it will still be minimal because they've gotten a lot of donations to actually expand this tool worldwide. So anyway, that's the plan going forward, is to actually roll this out this year and to have people say, yes, this is something we'd like to do. Any questions on the Ushahidi part? Okay. With that, I guess I'm not sure.
I would join. I would say something quickly, which is not just questions, but any feedback at all about this team's work. The way we'll format this is after every team presents, we'll have a few minutes for quick feedback and questions and discussion, and at the end we'll have a good chunk of time to talk about all the things we've just heard and how they fit together and how to move forward. So now that this is fresh in your mind, if there's anything about this particular team's work that you'd like to ask or contribute, we'd love to hear it.
I have a question.
Hmm.
Just going forward, you're talking about the next scope of work. Would there be a faculty student team involved in this, or is this sort of a connector project? We host one meeting. What are your thoughts about how to engage faculty and students?
Oh, so the faculty are still hot to trot on this, I guess I would say.
Ah.
Yeah, so I mean, if for some reason they can't do it, I can drive it for sure. But the faculty are still interested in this because, in particular, Mark Gondry, this kind of thing, this kind of collaborative tool in response to emergency situations is right up his alley. And so if we could actually have this meeting and have his students drive the meeting, I think that would be very powerful. And just sort of, there are a couple of folks from agencies here, and I know GIS is very popular, so I'm going to tell a story since I'm old and I get to tell stories. One of the things, because we've had these discussions before, right? Why not just use GIS? And this reminds me, I was working for a big bad oil company years ago, and doing a lot of data on, 100,000-year ice impacts on structures, developing this complicated model, Bayesian statistical model. And there was a software out, which is only $200 a year. And so I wanted this software because it was a graphical display software. And management said no, because we don't want to start the precedent of going out and buying software. So write your own software to do it. And so I did. It took a month or two. And then every year it would take another month or two to update with inputs and everything. And so that's sort of $10,000 to $15,000 a year, just in maintaining a tiny, tiny little piece of software. And if you're going to go the GIS route, that's going to be much more than this in order to keep up with technology and keep up with the inputs. And so that's just another reason to offshore this, to have Ushahidi host it. And so I just want to throw that out there, is that if you're going to go the GIS route because you've done it before, I think there's a real pitfall to avoid there. Bud Miller raised her hand.
I'm not sure where this fits in the discussion, but one thing that it would be very valuable to have mapped is where would be environmentally safe, reasonable, whatever, places for people who are nomadic, and people who are homeless to be. The current administrative strategies involve shuffling people around a lot. There's a constant expense in clearing people from many of the stream bank locations, et cetera, that you have, and then putting people into temporary situations, which are kind of few and far between. And then when they reach the end of let's say they're allowed to be there for 6 months, then people get kind of shuffled out again. There are a few people, of course, who are getting housing or something like that, which is great, but the vast majority kind of are just cycled through and repeatedly shuffled. So you may not be able to fix all of that from people, but
working on it,
but there is a huge absence of data on where can people go to, and or where would it be reasonable for people to go to, and I'm going to say just drop this in the governor right now has put in a huge amount of money for like encampment clearing. But then,
Right.
where do the people go to from encampments? Anyways, I mean,
Right.
I think, yes. So I personally think that, a good model for some point in the foreseeable future would be to have managed places where managed mini villages of around 20 or so people. It's problematic when you have individuals unsafe, randomly, out who knows where, and it's problematic to have massive encampments of like over 50 people, like all clumped together. That's also like, oh my gosh, what are we doing here?
Right.
Slum city. So having something in between that is actually mindful, manageable, and whatever would be a wonderful thing to have, but that's, I think you get my point.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really, really, really good point. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting because it's another way. If you show a place and if you show a map and there's only one place to safely go, it's another way, it's another lever to provoke that discussion in some of the political meetings, right, of where people can go. It gives you another tool to use. That's nice. No, thank you for that. Let's see, I think I see Carrie Ann raised her hand.
This is great that you guys are addressing all of these issues and coming up with solutions and these mapping tools. As you all know, the Water Board is working on our Russian River pathogens TMDL and trying to get that adopted. So we do a lot of work and communicate with other agencies. And of course, I'm in the GIS camp. And just because, we just awarded a planning grant to Sonoma County, and they're going to be going through a mapping exercise. And we've given, 319 funds for them to do a mapping study. And it just seems to me that having more layers, so providing more layers as agencies across the county, we can layer our findings into one spot. And I'm just wondering, how compatible is this program with taking other information that's not necessarily, that is a GIS? Is there a converter or some sort of crosswalk that can happen so that other mapping studies can be applied to this?
Yeah, that's a good question. You can actually export data from Mushihidi fairly easily. It's kind of a push button operation. Yeah, so that's a good point. There will be some compatibility issues that way, but in terms of incorporating data from Mushihidi into GIS, it's very easy.
And what about the other way around? Do you
I
know?
haven't tried the other way. I'm assuming it's fairly easy. I mean, most mapping applications you can import, location data, but I haven't tested that. I'd have to look at that, I guess. But I think going from Mushihidi to GIS, so you can look at it internally and make maps is a fairly easy thing to do.
Great. It just seems that we have a couple different mapping projects going on within the watershed. So
no, totally. That's a great point. Yeah. Investigating that in more detail will be interesting.
It seems like the key here is crowdsourcing, right? You would need a crowdsourcing platform that you don't want messing up your GIS layer. And so the Ushahidi is like, oh, it's our it's our vehicle for crowdsourcing, bringing in crowdsourced data into GIS. It would actually be, to me, it would be preferable to have a separate software that you're not worrying about security all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah. And then as, as the technology changes and as people get new phones and, having to train people to adapt as GIS and technology changes is going to be a huge lift. And so I think looking at it in terms of can we walk the data back and forth is really, really important. Yeah, that's a good point. Andy.
Yeah, just a little bit on the heels of Carrie Ann's question. You may know this, but the Confluence has convened a mapping group to find some common platforms that all could inform around different watershed related layers, and this is certainly a good one that could be included, or the other way around, or both. And I was curious about with the no need for staffing is kind of one of the highlights of this tool, but yet you have engagement of citizens. So I'm assuming it's kind of like passive engagement. So how does the tool get richer over time? How does it evolve, I guess? And I may have missed that in the presentation. So once you have something that's available to others, how does it grow with more intelligence and more people with insights and other mapping projects that it can form it, things like that? Does that require a group to revisit a couple times a year, update it? Like how?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think so. In terms of this, I'm imagining sort of an advisory group for this or whatever it is.
Okay.
Maybe that's the wrong word, but it's not to update it, but it's to say, are we happy with what we're doing and do we want to add things to it?
Yeah.
Or are we happy with just quote unquote, just using this to investigate homeless and water quality issues, or do we open it up to tourism and dads with 2-year-olds looking for a bathroom, for example? So I think it requires that level of at least annual meeting to see what it is and where we've gone. And to Ludmilla's point, there are, we've identified more potential places for folks to camp safely. How do we get those into the tool? That kind of thing on an annual, I can imagine.
Okay.
In terms of the tool growing and becoming useful, it's a very social media driven outreach kind of tool. And so it's, faculty and students and Facebook and posts and cross posting with ROWA. I'm imagining that kind of public outreach to grow it countywide. Maybe, maybe if we so this part's the exciting part for me. Maybe if we do it really well and it's very useful, then we just sort of end up going more than that, right? I mean, like NBWA, maybe it starts being adopted across the various water agencies and maybe it expands. And so this is kind of why I'm having something that you don't have to program yourself makes it easy to blow it out and get conversations going on a larger scale. I don't know if that sort of answers your question, maybe.
It does.
I think
Okay.
probably to make sure that there's a placeholder, we could just add that to the list, the stakeholder meeting. That could
Right.
be a goal within the stakeholder meeting, is to identify the plan that would be needed to continue to build it and recruit people to be part of the app.
That's true. Ludmilla?
So my apologies for going twice in this round, but this is two questions. Do you have the resources to go outside of Sonoma County with this mapping? Or are you aligned with other universities or agencies doing a similar doing something compatible with this study? And I ask because I am on the California Interagency Council Advisory Committee, you know, for a statewide you know, resolution of homelessness and advising that. And I will say that what I'm seeing is you're doing fantastic work here, and I could see it almost being a pilot for larger efforts. But I do see I do see a statewide need for this kind of information. You know, where are the problems created by homelessness, and where are the places where we could go or move resources or place resources that would be a more environmentally friendly, appropriate place. So, you know, I could foresee a lot of pushback if you have a perfect environment for homeless people, but only locally within Sonoma County, you know, that there is that fear of, oh, then homeless people are going to come, you know, just here. So I would like, yeah, I would like to reduce harm statewide and have safe space statewide.
I think that's interesting. No, that's really interesting. So I think having a stakeholder meeting locally to try to spin this up would be great. And I think having a, you know, what you've just suggested seems to lend itself to a follow-on meeting statewide to say, hey, here's what we're trying to do. And maybe to solicit some interest for some other pilot studies and some other watersheds. Does that sound reasonable?
Well, you got to talk to your bosses as if that's reasonable.
Well,
but I'm
I'm
saying,
the boss of this one, I guess.
yeah, I mean, where I am in the conversation is I am really well, it's essential to have conversations that are at the margins, at the crossing points of you know, homelessness, sustainable development, and environmental, you know, and environmental concerns. And those aren't just because we can't viably resolve homelessness. We have thousands of people unless we're doing it in environmentally appropriate ways.
Right.
You know, it's going to be
right.
creating problems down the road if it's done in non-environmentally sound ways. I'm sorry, I'm branching into a lot of other
sense.
territory here, but yeah,
I think that's great.
So I'm completely fascinated by the work that you're doing and the depth of the mindfulness that you've put into all the different aspects of it, and I'm going, yay, these are my people. but so carry on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think that as we go on, we should follow up with you for some of these larger meetings and larger connections and see how to make that happen. I think that'd be really, really good. No, so definitely thank you for that. Okay, Carrie, what do you think? Is it time for me to be quiet?
It's time for us to hear from the teams here ready to present. So why don't we start with Gina?
Alrighty then. So we have one of our students here. Oliver, I think, had to drop off, but Oliver was here. And then I have two students who sent me a video and an audio file. Oh, sorry, you can't see me. Hi. Sent me a video and audio file, which I will play later. So But first, what I'd like to do is I have a little presentation as well. So I'll share my screen. And I will present this. Okay. So I use the same template. I updated it and I'll send this update to all y'all, all the CEI people. So the communications team, these were our Sonoma State students from the Communication and Media Studies Department who worked over the course of summer 2023. And as many of you met them because they did video interviews with you and edited, created, well, I'll get into what they did. And they also built a website to house the media content that the media resources. So I'll show you all of that as we go. But Mika DiLello, Oliver Zimmer, and Liza Schoen were the 3 students. So our goals for 2023 in a nutshell were to build a
Just to stop you real quick, I'm not sure if you know what we're seeing. So
what are you seeing? Are you seeing the presentation? No.
We're seeing it as if you were creating the PowerPoint, not in presentation.
Okay, hold on. You know why? Because I shared just the PowerPoint. So let me share my entire screen and then you should be able to see the presentation. Okay, so how about now?
There you go.
Great. Okay, so there's the team, Mika, Oliver, and Liza. And our goals, in a nutshell, were to build a hub for the social media, video, and informational content, produce videos with stakeholders to tell the Rising Waters story. And these videos were meant to be presented at public meetings, so to help people understand what was going on. So those were the goals. And so my students engaged in basically this type of work. They did research on the people they were interviewing, on Rising Waters itself, on the data out there, on homelessness and water, and various other things to help become a foundation for their work. They developed interview questions for the stakeholders to get at the goals we were trying to get at. They contacted the stakeholders, set up meetings, conducted the interviews on video, which meant they had to manage the camera and the audio and the interview. So they just did a great job. They location scout briefly to look for good places to shoot. So I was just proud of them for doing all of the things. They also shot B-roll. For those of you who don't know what B-roll is, it's sort of background footage. So of people working or of water, of creeks and lakes, and all the background footage you can use in videos to highlight what you're talking about. They logged the videos to pull sound bites that related they basically did qualitative research on the videos. They pulled out quotes, and then we grouped those into themes, which would become the themes for the videos to be produced. And then they created storyboards of how we wanted to edit those videos together. And then they edited rough cuts of the videos. I mean, a rough cut is basically laying out the content. And then once we really like it, we clean it up. And then also they built a website. So we'll show you that. So we'll start with the website. This is the website that my students created. And I want to go to it in a minute, but I do have a couple of screenshots. This is the homepage, and you can see that there's a what is Rising Waters, and then content, social media posts and graphics, info pamphlets and fact sheets, and videos is the content we currently have. And then, this is another screenshot from the video of our website, but let me go straight there. And in preparation for that happening, I've got the website open right here. So here's the website, which we can share. And if I scroll down, there's the content which we can click on. We found some nice quotes that we incorporated with photos. And then we also put all of you up as stakeholders. And we're going to build this out. But we really liked this little grid, and then a contact sheet. So I'll go in a little bit more about what is Rising Waters, and then the stakeholder. Now we haven't decided yet whether we like this better or this one better. I think I like this one better, but anyways, if anybody has any opinion, go ahead and put it in the chat. Option 1 or option 2. And then there's the steering committee with bios, and we do need to build this out a bit more, but at least we've got the basics down. So also, if you don't like your photo, you can of course send us a photo of your choice, and we will update that. So that's the about page, and of course we have a contact page so that people can reach out, and we can update this as needed for the project. Let me now go to resources, and we have a citations page just for some of the quotes we used, and we'll add to this as we go. But let me get to the resources. So the resources page is where people can find stuff that they can use, including videos, social media posts, information, pamphlets, data, and more resources. I will say the data and the more resources are coming soon, but I will show you these. So let me start with info pamphlets because it's the shortest. There should be a picture here. I'm not sure why it's loading, but anyways, I'm not sure why I'm not seeing the content. So let me, actually go to the back end, and I'll show you what this would look like. Where's the content? There's supposed to be content here. I don't know why they're not there. Oh, you know what? It's not the fact sheets that I need. It's the info page. That's why I put them on. I need to consolidate. There we go. So this is the informative pamphlets, and we have to use, right click, and download to save image. So here are some fact sheets, a poster, an infographic, and a social media sample calendar and schedule. So that's 1 page of resources. And if I come over here to social media posts, then we have this page. There are single post graphics and multi-slide posts. If I click on these, they'll go down to the proper area, but I'll just scroll down for you. The single posts. So these are kind of outlined by topic. What is rising waters? These are some graphics that can be used that were created by the year 2 team. The factoids and myths and misconceptions, why it matters. And there is an area here to put some explanatory information under each slide if we want that. And then the social media campaigns are multi-slide campaigns. So we have a true or false campaign, the cost of campaign, and the water supply campaign. So there's some social media options for people to use. And to use these, you just right click or control click and download on these. And then finally, we have the video content. So I'm just going to jump back to the slideshow real quick to give you some explanation of the videos. So as I said, the students conducted several interviews with all of you, as you know, and then they put together the storyboards and the rough cuts. And so they edited rough cuts, and then I finished one of the videos. And so that's part of year 4 is resources to produce the additional videos. Producing a video is very labor intensive, very time intensive. And given the students' allocation, they were able to get the rough cuts out, which was incredible. It was a lot to ask. There are about 5 rough cuts. And then I completed one that's on the website, and then we would like to complete the rest. And we can actually, this myths and misconceptions, we can make a second myths and misconceptions video. We have a lot, and we can split it also to cut these videos up into social media sized, TikTok sized content. We can, that's something we can do with a year 4. But for now we're on year 3, and we decided to finish the myths and misconceptions video, which I will play for you now. And I'll show you where it is on the website afterwards. Oh, you know what? I think I need to stop share and share my, my sound for you to see this. Okay, so I'm going to come to YouTube so I can make it full screen.
Every single person who experiences homelessness is detrimentally impacted by misconceptions. I think the primary misconception is that homelessness is the primary driver for pollution, local pollution, and that's not accurate.
There can be biases, oh, these people must just be lazy, or they must just not care about the environment. If they did, then they would be cleaning up after themselves. And I think it's just more complicated than that.
When we oftentimes see people littering or behaving poorly in our creeks and areas, oftentimes we may just say all those people are homeless. And that may not be true.
Really, one of the biggest misconceptions that all the trash on the river is because of homeless camps. That's simply not true. Trash in the river is an equal opportunity thing. We see people who have millions of dollars in the bank leave trash on the river. And then we see folks who are homeless. Unfortunately, the homeless folks take a lot of the blame. I mean, we go to places in Santa Rosa where there are no homeless people, and there's trash on the streets, trash in the parking lot. So trash is unfortunately a universal problem. The homeless folks, by virtue of living on the river, just their trash is more proximate to the river.
People that are in homeless communities actually, are begging for a trash receptacle and would love to see sorted recycling and trash. Yes, give us the containers, we'll sort the stuff. And is everybody perfect at that? No. But there's a lot of people who really want that. They really want to respect the community. They want to respect the land.
People think of homeless encampments as affecting water quality. Well, where the homeless are camping is right next to where some of these farms maybe they don't have to use fertilizers and have cows. So the homeless folks are actually exposed to whatever's in the water too, right? It's a cycle.
So many people believe, oh, well, all those problems, all that trash and all that bacteria in the river, that must be those homeless people. Actually, studies are quite clear. It's dogs, it's cows, it's leaking septic tanks. It's hard to pick up the trace of homelessness. There are so many things that we consider normal, building homes, planting vineyards, things like that, that actually are equally bad for the river.
So many people in Sonoma County have this perception that homeless people are just dirty, that they're just messing up the land, that they're messing up the water.
It would be great if people knew that people who don't have a place to live care about the quality of their water and would love to have, their water be clean.
When it's homelessness, people are, trying to find ways to live and survive. People are stuck without restrooms. People are stuck without places to store their goods, places to dispose of their trash, fecal matter, and things like that. And all that ends up getting into our storm drain system or directly into our creeks.
The vast majority of people who are homeless would rather use a porta potty, than go down the creek, It's really in the public health interest and environmental health interest to have a reasonable facility where people can do what people's bodies need to do.
Public education, humanizing the individuals that are experiencing homelessness, the challenges that they face can go a long way in terms of breaking down people's assumptions and the kind of us versus them mentality, and just more relating to them as people.
Another way that we can kind of combat some of these stereotypes is through meeting people who are experiencing homelessness. And there are a lot of really safe ways to do that. I wouldn't recommend someone just go traipse off into an encampment necessarily, because that's someone else's personal space. But they can volunteer and really meet one-on-one and see the humanity in people who are experiencing homelessness and really realize that they're just like them.
So that is the video, and I do want to say that the students designed the students designed the graphics and did just a beautiful job on these videos. So that's the video, and I'll jump back to my PowerPoint real quick. I'm moving things out of the way on my screen so that I may start it up again. Okay, so so the student experience. From my perspective, and I'm going to give you their perspective in a moment, they got real world media experience. They got to network with all of you amazing community stakeholders. They got to have some autonomy while I was there with them at the interviews. For most of the interviews, I wasn't there with them for 1.5 because by then I wanted them to kind of fly on their own, and they did. But they got autonomy with guidance, and that was huge to me. I thought they did an amazing job. And then they got training in videography, web design, leadership, and that is going to help them in their careers. So from my perspective, this was just invaluable for them. I mean, I can't ask for anything better. And then, Oliver was here. You heard that his mic was having an issue. So unless he sent me something, which I'll look, but Liza and Mika sent.
Hi, everyone. This is Mika DeLello. I was an intern.
Oh,
Hi,
sorry.
everyone.
There it is.
This is Mika DeLello. I was an intern for Rising Waters in the summer, and I was part of the team that interviewed the stakeholders. I was usually either manning the camera or the microphone. This experience of interviewing people was a new one for me. As a communications major, I often say that my thing is video, but I'm often on the side of editing the video afterwards, not being behind the camera as it's recording. I learned a lot, and these skills came in handy pretty quickly for me. I've been taking classes in video and audio production, which often means having to go out and record our own videos or audio for projects. In October, I was part of a project to interview people who survived the HIV epidemic of the 80s. Having the already existing knowledge of how an interview should be set up and how it should go helped things run a lot smoother. I still haven't thought super in depth into what kind of work I'll be doing after I graduate. I actually graduate this semester, but my thoughts are basically that I just want my work to include video. I like video editing, but I have also learned a lot about recording video, and I would like to build on that skill more. How exactly environmental issues fit into there is kind of up in the air since I still don't know exactly what I want to be doing. But I will say that I care deeply about environmental issues and try to be aware of not only my personal impact, but the impact that larger structures like laws, governments, and companies have on our environment and what we can do as citizens to help it.
So that was Mika, and forgive me, I didn't see that it auto-corrected his name. It's Mika. And then let me go to Liza.
Hello, my name is Liza Schoen, and I was one of the summer interns for the Sonoma State Center for Environmental Inquiry Rising Waters project. I was super fortunate to be on that internship team and that group of students that was able to work on the website, interview stakeholders and interview people part of the project, and put together the videos. I think that what it was like for me to interview and get that real world experience, it was really special. Interviewing is something that I really enjoyed doing, or I had a pretty big interest in it going into it. It was one of the reasons actually why I signed up for this internship. So doing it was like really exciting for me, and I had a really fun time doing it. I think that interviewing is a really important skill to have because in your day-to-day life, when you're meeting people, when you're networking, when you're making those long-term connections, in a way you are interviewing others. You're seeing, oh, what are you seeing here that's really important, that is interesting to me and that I can use later, when I'm making videos, or a networking opportunity for something that I can use in the future, of someone that I can connect with a future job. And I think that that is so important. Also, you get to see the other side of interviewing when you're interviewing for jobs. I got a new job recently in marketing, and I feel like a lot of the tactics that they used when they were interviewing me was the stuff that I used when I was interviewing people for the Rising Waters project. So I felt like I had a bit of an inside, can answer some of the questions better, and I think that that is like the true real world experience. And then how am I going to integrate the environment into my work going forward? I think that that's a really interesting question. I have always felt it to be really important that wherever I work, I want there to be proper sustainability practices and really good environmental practices and things like that. So I will continue to have that opinion, and going forward, make sure that whatever company I work with, there are sustainability practices and that those practices are actually upheld. It's not just something written on paper, it's also something that is like actively done. I wouldn't mind working for an environmental institute in the future as well. I think that it is something that is so important. So see where life takes me, but I definitely just want to integrate environmental impacts somewhere in my job, whether that's working somewhere where we go out and do beach cleanups as an office or a collective group, or like I said, working somewhere where the mission statement is aiding the environment. So thank you so much for having me on the internship team, and I'm really excited to take this experience that I got from it and take it with me in the working world and really learn from the experiences that I had this summer. So thank you so much.
So that was Liza. And I'm going to come back to the PowerPoint. I'm just about done here. I'm going to, I do want to say also with the videos, we have several and you all feature more or less in each video. So other videos there might be, I just wanted to say that they balance out over exposure wise. So looking to the future, we would like to advance that resource hub, do more with it, add more content, even, additional design elements, things like that. That would be amazing. Update the graphics, those social media graphics, add additional social media graphics, bring in new content, new design, add short form video content for social media, finish out those videos that we have rough cuts for, update key messages and talking points, and add additional stakeholder info onto that website. And so I think for the videos, we have 3 to 5. We could probably even do more, produce those videos, refine the storyboards and rough cuts, capture additional B-roll and stills. I noticed some spots when I was editing where I'm like, oh, I wish I had this shot, and maybe create some branded graphics for the video. Did I mention that the graphics in the videos were created by, I think, Mika? So I just wanted to make sure you all knew that. And then we do want to get the students an opportunity to present at forums, at least one, and present also at the Sonoma State Research and Creative Work Symposium and other opportunities as they arise. And so that is the communication team presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know, or any comments.
Well, Gina, I can say from the comments in the chat, we're all blown away and impressed by both the student experience and the products produced and the plans for the future. So home run. So excited to see that. Unfortunately, we're running a little short on time.
Sorry.
So I'm going to ask no problem at all. I'm going to ask everyone in the audience, if you have an actual question, feel free and ask it now, but let's save discussion for later. Any questions? And you can always type them in the chat and we can bring them up when it makes sense. Wonderful. Okay, let's go on to Jackie's team and then we'll talk more at the end. Hopefully we'll have some time.
Okay, awesome job, Gina. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I put a link. I can't share my screen. It's disabled, Carrie.
I was looking at that. Chris or Gina, would you mind doing that?
I got it.
Okay, thank you. And then, okay, perfect. So the slides are linked to the slides are also in the chat. Carrie, can you see my screen okay? Okay, perfect. So let me slideshow, move all my Zoom boxes out of the way. Okay, so I'm here with Sydney, and we are going to talk about, we're into the second year of the actual testing for water quality part of the project. So these are the students that are with me this year. I had a whole nother group last year in year 3. So on your screen, you're seeing my year 4 students, and most of them are environmental studies majors, except for Sydney. She's our biologist. So I'll let her quickly introduce herself.
Hi, yeah, I'm Sydney. I'm the sole representative from the bio department on our team. My concentration's in ecology and evolutionary biology, and I work with Jackie, and I also do work with Dr. Geist and his grad student, on more riparian related research. And I'm in my last semester, and it's been cool to be a part of this team so far this year.
Awesome. And so last semester, we were a group of 7 students, and we've had Ashley graduate. So we lost her this semester, and Diego graduated as well. So now we're down to the 5 that are left. So
yeah, so our project goal is to measure water quality upstream and downstream of homeless encampments along urban creeks in Santa Rosa. During last year, the first year of our project before I was involved, we were looking at 3 different creeks, 5 locations on Russell Creek, 5 on Pollen Creek, and 8 on Santa Rosa Creek.
So we basically started out, we were identifying creeks that had an impact from homeless encampments, and we were trying to sample water upstream and downstream of those locations. So we started out with 3 creeks, but for the second year, we've decided to just look really closely at 1 creek. And the reason we did this is because the monitoring of where the homeless activity was happening along Russell Creek and Pollen Creek was really limited. So we had a very robust water quality data set, but we didn't have a good where are the homeless or the unhoused data set. So Santa Rosa Creek is monitored really well. And so we've decided to look really closely at 17 water sampling locations around Santa Rosa Creek that are shown in these kind of yellowish circles on the right panel here, starting all the way up in Rincon Valley, where we're expecting there to be really clean water, and then all the way downstream, basically north of Sebastopol, all the way down here, and then moving all the way through urban Santa Rosa.
So we used various methods in the field in order to collect our data. The first of which is using a data sonde in order to measure temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen, and conductivity of each of our sites. We then went on to do composite water sampling at each site. So we'd do 3 grab samples, and we'd take a third of each in order to make sure, you know, just we're getting evenly distributed samples from all of our sites. And then we would take all of our samples and we would drop them off at the Laguna treatment plant, and we would have them analyzed for phosphorus and fecal bacteria, specifically E. coli, what we're looking at. We've got more that we're adding to data analysis that we'll talk about later.
So what we've been able to test for up until now is E. coli from any source. So this would indicate perhaps that there had been toileting happening near the creek, but it could have been an animal source or a human source with the testing we had up until now. So what we're looking to add this semester is to use a PCR-based method to look specifically at a gene that's associated with human fecal bacteria, to really dial in what the source would be if we did find E. coli at a particular location.
So these 17 red pins represent the locations that we tested water, and on the screen here, the direction of the creek flows from the right to the left. So left is downstream, right is upstream. The box outlines the urban area study, which we expected to have increased levels of homelessness due to the fact that they are in a city. So we expected higher levels within the urban region rather than the upstream and downstream sites. This picture represents what the creek looks like at our upstream area, and this is a sample of a site that we have called Trailhead Park. These pictures are from our sampling at Prince Memorial Greenway. This area is known to frequently be used as a dwelling for unhoused individuals, so we expected very high levels here. And these photos show evidence of homeless individuals sleeping under bridges at locations such as Montgomery Drive and Alderbrook Avenue.
So one thing we tried to do in our first year of the study was to monitor where we were seeing homeless activities on the days we were sampling water, but that was really limiting because the homeless population moves, they hide their stuff, they don't like run up to be counted or anything like that. So we found that in our first year of study, we weren't getting a very accurate measurement of where there was homeless encampments because we just didn't have the time to be out there all the time checking. So one thing we've done this year for year 4, our second year on the project, is to partner with the Santa Rosa Creeks cleanup team. So Michael Santorini leads that team at Santa Rosa City, and then he has interns that work under them. And so they have, I had some of my students go out with those interns, and so they're out cleaning up trash along Santa Rosa Creek every single week, and they have eyes on the creek. They know exactly what they're picking up. They know where they're seeing people. And so since they're out weekly, we thought that that was really good data set for us to tap into as far as being able to monitor where homeless activity was from week to week along the creek. So this is an example. It's pretty dense table, but this is an example of, actually, let me go back for a second. So the red pins are our water sample locations. The black flags are all the areas I've asked the creek team to document whether they've seen homeless activity at that particular spot. These 30, I'm going to get the number right, 36 black flags. And so those are all shown in this spreadsheet here. So in the leftmost column are those 36 locations. We've asked the creek cleanup team to record whether they've seen homelessness. So an X would mean they actually didn't go to that location that particular week, so they're not sure. A 0 means they went there, but they didn't see anything that indicates homelessness. And the 1 indicates, yes, we saw evidence of human activity in that spot that indicated someone had been sleeping there. And so sometimes it's a tent, sometimes it's feces itself, toilet paper, bags of things, bicycles, anything that they're noting here. So this has been a really great partnership with us to work with the Creeks team to understand where the homeless activity is happening on a weekly basis, which then we can compare our water quality data to. And we measure water quality on a monthly basis. So we have used, one of our students has been using GIS to help make these maps to look at the data we found. So in September, we actually didn't have the homeless data for that particular month, but in October and November from the fall, we did have data. So you can see that if there's no coloring at all, that area wasn't monitored. If there's a light gray splotch, that was reported that there wasn't homeless in that particular area. And if there's a black splotch, that indicates in that particular area that was reported on, there was some kind of trash or indication of homelessness. So we have homeless data from October and also from November. And the dark black area represents the Prince Memorial Greenway area, which we already knew we expected to be impacted by homelessness. And as expected, we were seeing, well, actually, the extreme upstream and downstream areas weren't monitored at all because there's no trash up there. So there's no reason for the creek interns to go up there. And you can see that there seemed to be more reports of homelessness in November in the areas that were looked at compared to October. So on top of this, we layered the E. coli results. So last semester, we were measuring the E. coli levels in the water samples. And you can see here that the small purple or the small pink circles indicate low levels of fecal bacteria, which we measured at our 17 locations in September. In October, now we compare our homelessness data in the back layer with the E. coli data on the pink circles. And so we're seeing larger areas, larger levels of E. coli in some areas in October than we had seen in September, but the very upstream locations to the right and downstream locations to the left had the lowest levels of E. coli as we were expecting. And then in November, you can see that we saw the highest levels of E. coli at the urban locations that we sampled in the center here. Again, the extreme left and the extreme right still had very low levels of E. coli in November. The asterisk on top of the pink circle indicates that the value actually was higher than the machine could measure. So that particular pink circle should be even larger. We're just not sure how much larger. So one thing that jumps out right away is that these November pink circles are a lot larger than we'd seen in the previous months. And one thing that could explain that is rainfall. So along the left here, you can see rainfall in September. So blue indicates there was a large rain event, 0.2 inches of precipitation. And then the red indicates the date that we sampled water. So that would be September. In October, there was a large rain event, and then maybe almost a week later, we sampled water. On November, there was a large rain event the exact same day that we sampled water. And so you can see when you sample water on the day that it's raining, you get these higher values of E. coli, which could indicate that anything that had been deposited on the creek banks was being washed into the water, and we were pulling that up as we were sampling the water. So we still need to do many more months of sampling before I'm comfortable drawing any conclusions from this. But the one thing we can say for sure right now is that rain affects levels of E. coli that we're measuring in the water. and that our very upstream locations had low E. coli values and our downstream locations had low E. coli values. And then the urban area had the highest amount of E. coli bacteria. Is that coming from the unhoused population? We can't say for sure right now. Is it even coming from humans? We can't say for sure right now, but it's something that we're continuing to look at. And after maybe another semester, we should be able to have some better answers there. Other questions we have is, after a rain event, how long does it take for that particular area to flush out? How long do the measurable E. coli stay in a particular area after they've been deposited there? And do they settle? Do they stick around? So these are all questions we're looking into. And then we do have the problem where we're testing for any source of E. coli, animal, bird, dog. And for this particular study, we're really interested in knowing the human, what percentage is coming from a human source. So Sydney's going to talk about how we're looking to do that.
Yeah, so because we're uncertain of the organism of origin of all the E. coli we're sampling at this point, that's the next question we're trying to address. And we're trying to address this from doing real-time PCR in order to try and ID human fecal bacteria. So this involves 3 steps. We take a specific water sample for this process, and then we run it through a vacuum filter through this really fine piece of filter paper. And that will capture all of the bacteria that's in the water. We take that piece of filter paper, we fold it up really tiny, and we put it into something called a bead beater, which is under the number 2 bullet right there. And basically what that does is that disrupts all of the bacteria and releases their DNA. And then finally, we do real-time PCR to quantify for this gene called HF183, which is unique to E. coli that's found in human gut microbiome. So if that gene is present in our sample, then we know that the E. coli we're sampling is coming from a human source.
So we're really excited to add this part to the study. We have a biology graduate student, Madison Ingram, that's going to be doing the experiment for us because it's a very expensive piece of equipment. And the enzymes and chemicals needed for the equipment have been expensive too. So we're finally fully funded to buy the supplies that we need. And we're excited to get some results on this, hopefully in the next month. So again, we're sampling water from these 17 locations along Santa Rosa Creek. And when we do the experiment to test for the levels of human fecal bacteria, we need to know if our results are believable. We want to validate our experiment. So we're super lucky because tomorrow the city of Petaluma is sampling in the Petaluma River, and they are having their water samples tested for the specific human fecal bacteria at a lab called Cell Analytical. They're giving us duplicate samples, so we're going to run those at Sonoma State and compare them to the Cell Analytical results. Then the day after tomorrow, because of the big rain coming tomorrow, Santa Rosa Creeks are sampling along Colgan Creek, and they're testing for the presence of this human fecal bacteria. They're sending it to a completely different lab, and they're going to give us duplicate samples. So that gives us a second chance to validate our results against a lab's results to show that we're actually getting validated data. And then we're hoping February, March, April, and May to collect our own samples with the confidence that our experiment's hopefully working, to see where there would be measurable amounts of human fecal bacteria along Santa Rosa Creek. And of course, we all hope there's none, right? But if there is fecal bacteria, we'll be able to kind of identify where the levels are higher versus other locations. So that's where we've been, and this is where we're going. So we're going to keep working with the creek interns to get the homeless data, and we're going to keep sampling water along Santa Rosa Creek, adding in this real-time PCR piece. We have another student, Erin. She was sick this morning. She was going to be on the call, but she's working with the Petaluma group to enter our results into the SEDEN database because they have very specific reporting procedures. Also, there was a different creek we were looking at last year where there were really high levels of E. coli. So we want to go back and check that particular creek for human and for the human gene. That's kind of a little side project. And we're also partnering with computer science students here to create infographics that hopefully Gina can then put on her website to show the results that we're getting. And we're super excited because the 6 of us, my 5 students and myself, we're going to be traveling. We're packing up, we're taking a plane, we're going down to CSU Fullerton, and we're going to present our results to the CSU Water Conference, which I do every year with my students, and they always say that it's a really great experience. So my next slide takes a really long time to load. 1 second, because there's a lot of pictures on it. I want to really quickly brag about the progress we've made last year on the project. So these are the students. There were 8 of us last year. This was the conference that we went to last year. It was in Monterey, the CSU Water Conference, reporting on our first year results. The students really enjoyed that experience. And then this is us getting the Best Water Poster Award at the symposium last year at Sonoma State, the Student Research Symposium. So we're really excited about that. In between last year and this year, I did have 2 students work with me over the summer, and they looked at a lot of the homeless reports near creeks that the city of Santa Rosa, police, Catholic Charities were collecting, and we were looking for patterns of which creek had the most monitored, was the best monitored for homelessness. And that's how we decided to focus just on Santa Rosa Creek. Then one of the students from last year, Claudia Mayo, and I went down to San Diego to have a poster at the CASQUA conference, and Claudia's poster was selected as the Outstanding Stormwater Student Science Project, and we got that fancy award she's holding, which was really exciting. And then we went to the Santa Rosa Board of Public Utilities meeting, where we were recognized for having won this award, along with Santa Rosa City, who also won an award for work that they were doing. So basically this project has kind of blown up because we're only a year and a half into it, and it's already made a lot of progress and gotten a lot of recognition. So we do have a few closing slides, which have to do with students from last year's project, kind of reflecting on what they gained from the project. So I'll have Sydney read this quote from Athena.
Yeah, so Athena says that this class gave me a great introduction on how to conduct research, from formulating a research question to making conclusions based on quantitative and qualitative findings. I'm more prepared for a job in the field of environmental science, especially considering my passion for hydrology and maintaining our current water sources.
And then Haley's quote.
Yeah, participating in this class has given me skills in water sampling fieldwork, analyzing data, and discussing what we believe is happening from data we are obtaining.
And Lily, hold on, I have to move my Zoom window. Okay, there you go.
I witnessed the importance of maintaining collaboration with other community stakeholders, as well as the positive effect of local regulations on our natural resources. I gained many skills related to water quality testing that I otherwise would never have learned from other classes. The experience played a huge role in me landing an internship with the City of Santa Rosa's water department.
And Sydney, what about you? Tell us about your experience.
If I can add anything, I mean, this is my last semester. I transferred here last spring, and my goal in coming to SSU was to gain as many hands-on employable skills as I possibly could before I have to go into the workforce. And I feel like this project has been great for that. I love how much time we spend in the field. I love all of the different methods we get to learn. I love the fact that we've partnered with so many different community organizations. So, all of the networking and just, learning the different ins and outs of how to work with organizations like that. So I definitely feel like I've learned a lot from it. I'm excited to get back in the lab and, do more filtration and PCR, and, it's hands-on, I really feel like I've benefited from it. So.
And I think the students also see me not knowing what to do next, because we're kind of collaboratively trying to figure out, okay, well, we got this result, we got to pivot. And so we come together as a group, and it's really a collaborative decision-making process.
Yeah, getting input into that process is really refreshing, especially as an undergrad, because you don't always have opportunities to do that at this stage of the game. So.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And so I know we're short on time, but we've been working with so many people, and this list is growing. So Santa Rosa Stormwater and Creeks has really been giving us our data set on the homelessness side. Laguna Treatment Plant has been testing our samples for E. coli and phosphorus. We're working with Permit Sonoma on this Petaluma project. The regional board, which always lets us borrow the data sond every month, so we're so appreciative. Sasha from Santa Rosa Housing and Community Service has given us data sets on all the creeks and the reporting that they've gotten. A lot of people at Sonoma State we've been working with. CSU Water has been promoting this project. And then again, the group in Petaluma. So that is what we have. Thanks for your attention.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that presentation, you two. So yes, we are running short on time, so I'm just gonna whiz through these slides. And if for some reason my computer decides to cut out because I see it's low battery, I will let Chris go back and take it away, but I think I can get through this, so I'll try and go real quick. I just wanted to give everybody kind of a preview of what's coming next. So this is going, let me share my screen real quick. Make sure everyone can see that. Is that all right with everybody? Okay. So what is into the near future for this project as a whole? As you could all see, these are really impactful experiences for students, for the community partners. There are so many opportunities here, and we're so proud of the work being done, and we want to keep moving this forward. We have those other team projects, like Chris mentioned. We have this inventory of different organizations working on homelessness and water issues, and we could use more people to pick that up and continue on its way. So if you know any students interested in any type of project like this, or specific ones, do let us know. We want to expand this to a global reach, such as Jackie's example of working with the city of Petaluma and the Bacteroides testing. We also have this really great opportunity. We were asked to partner with CSU Water to advise the California Sustainability Development Council on effective ways of engaging academia. So there's this urgent need to find and implement new solutions that benefit California communities, like resilience to climate change, but research can take decades to be implemented. So how can academics, non-governmental organizations, and agencies work together to effectively move research results into practice? It's one of those questions that we're hoping to work with them on. And in particular, how can granting agencies ensure that research funding will always result in meaningful community outcomes? This is something that we feel Education in Action is really good at, and we want to bring to their table. So we may have heard last year that we told you about a California Climate Action Grant that we had just submitted. Well, turns out some people really liked it, but there was one reviewer who didn't just seem to understand our vision. And so we are learning from this experience, we're reviving it, and we're trying to extend it throughout California. And we are doing this through partnering with UC Davis. We're also hoping to work more closely with the Continuum of Care and Ludmilla. So we really want to strengthen those ties with the Continuum of Care through meetings and presentations that we've already started. And we want them to make sure they can use these tools that these groups have created and be able to make recommendations to the board using this data and this real world student generated information. I think this was mentioned earlier too. The North Bay Watershed Association is a conference coming up that is being hosted at Sonoma State, and we're very excited to be a part of this. I just put the mission statement of NBWA up there for you. Really what we want to do with this conference is strengthen links. How can universities, water agencies, real world projects regionally come together and merge these cultures to work to create actionable change in our communities? We want to really create more student and faculty engagement of more water agency and geo-government representation. And we're going to do this, part of it is through a panel or a series of lightning talks, including highlighting Rising Water's efforts and showcasing the Education into Action initiative. So once again, just to revisit the model, the vision for the Center for Environmental Inquiry is this environmentally engaged society. And by mobilizing faculty, students, and community like we do in these projects together, we want to solve complex environmental challenges, turning education into action, striving for this North Bay where everybody can work together to find sustainable solutions. You have heard so many impact statements from students that this one might not be the biggest today, but as an example, Nicole wrote, "I am walking away with valuable skills, teamwork, leadership, communication, and creativity." So here's our information. If any of you would like to contact us for any reason, we definitely want all your feedback, ideas for the future, questions coming your way, partnership opportunities. We're so thankful for everybody who came today. And with that, that ends the presentation piece. We have 15 minutes left. I'm so happy. Thanks for whizzing through, team, so that we actually have time to discuss this. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. At this point, I would love to have questions and feedback about the 2 projects that were just presented first. And then if there's anything after that in general that we'd like to talk about regarding rising waters and the direction. I'm seeing that there's a bunch of information in the chat here. I want to make sure I've seen it all to see if there's any questions. And it appears to just be positive feedback. So thanks everyone for those comments. People are amazed by the work. Fantastic. All right. I see Claudia has her hand raised.
Yeah, I had a couple of things, both about one for each project. I'll go with Jackie's first and then Gina. So for Jackie, how, what you're getting, it looks like you're getting, a correlation between the, areas of increased homelessness and the bacteria counts in the water. But that's all confused, of course, by the whole urban area. You're kind of really just sampling urban versus downstream and upstream of an urban area. Is there any thoughts about how to tease out, let's say the human bacteria results are the same. How do you tease out the other sources of bacteria other than the homeless populations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's really hard to answer, but I recently heard a group from San Diego talk about a project they've done on the San Diego River where they found high amounts of human fecal bacteria in a waterway. And they actually traced it to a leaking septic pipe. And it had nothing to do with the nearby homeless community at all. So it's a really hard question to answer definitively, but we do have GIS layers from the city of Santa Rosa where their storm drain system is. So one thing that we're looking to do is identify, okay, there's E. coli here. Is it human or not? Okay, it's human. Are there homeless around or not? Okay, there's homeless around and we found human E. coli. Let's take a look at the storm drain system. Let's take a look. Is there a dog park nearby? And so, well, actually, if it was a dog park, it wouldn't be human, but we can look to see, are there people, are there motor homes parked nearby? Or so, yeah, we're going to do more surveys of the surrounding area once we have data that we're more confident in as far as where the human impact might be. So we kind of like survey the surrounding area and try to come up with an explanation that might rule out the homeless people or not. So yeah, that's a future direction for sure.
That's great. And then the other question I had for Gina's team is what are the plans for, this is just a great website and video resources and messaging resources. What are the plans for distributing this and getting it out so that people, other groups can use it, like within their organizations for training, or are there any plans for distribution?
That's an excellent question. I think that needs to be developed. We need to talk about exactly who needs to get this into their hands. Initially, distribution would happen with this group. And then I would hope potentially a year 4 group of comms students could interview stakeholders or solicit information about who needs to get this and develop a plan for distribution, which could happen pretty quickly. But I think initially sharing it with this group, really initially, and I want to say this, we have to get a domain name for this. Right now it's the Wix site which you can look at yourselves, but please don't share it. It's in the presentation, which I shared in the chat. But yes, that needs to be developed.
And speaking of the Wix site, that was one other question is, it seems like it's a Ushahidi kind of problem is who's going to own the website? How does that work?
Great question. So currently, Liza owns it because she was like the lead on creation, but you can transfer ownership. So we could transfer it to a CEI email.
Thank you.
Chris, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to, no, I think the presentations were really, really fantastic. I guess, just 2 quick comments. I don't really have anything more than that to say. I think getting the word out, going to Claudia's last point and Gina's last point. One thing that Andy and some of our stakeholders have pointed out is they have public outreach meetings during the year where they engage with, various people throughout the watersheds, and they've invited us several times to be part of their booths. And so making sure we have a student that knows to set them up with the appropriate material, I think would be really helpful. So I should keep in touch with Andy more, I guess is what I'm saying. And then the other comment and question about Santa Rosa Creek, and where trying to tease apart bacteria. The other thing that I know you all know that can happen. I ride my bike around there quite a bit, and there are areas nearby that are occasionally, even in the urban part, there's like gardens or farms, or you can see from the creek. And particularly a couple times a year, particularly during sort of mid to end October and into November, you can see, people putting down fertilizer or spraying that fertilizer water or whatever is going on there. And so I think one of the challenges in Sonoma will be to keep track of where farmers are actually fertilizing their fields, because that'll definitely have a huge signal. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's a good point. Well, yeah, I think like you said, that would be seasonal. And so it's good to, if there's a spike in a particular month, and we can't, we kind of explained one with rain, but that would be, another potential explanation.
So just throwing it out there. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, 2 other people.
Yeah, so many people. I love this. Why don't we start with Matt? I think I saw you first, and then Don.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say how impressed I am with everything that both of the teams have presented today. I joined late, and then I had internet connectivity problems, so I was out and back in, but just super impressed. The videos seem like incredibly high quality and professional, and I'm super interested to, as others have said, to how we can push those out. Be great to get those, and some of those in the like the Russian River Watershed Association's high school video contest that then gets presented at local theaters. Some of those short videos from your students could be presented that way. The water quality study, just great job, Jackie, and your students and team. So glad that the regional board could assist by providing some equipment. And I'm really great to hear that you're going to be able to find a way to look at the human sourcing of human fecal bacteria, and that'll be really interesting. The Russian River pathogen study that the regional water board conducted 10 years ago or so, that did look at various sources, definitely corroborated your finding of how much of an influence of rainfall events has with fecal bacteria levels. But it'll be great if you can kind of drill down and identify what is a human source versus other sources. So just wanted to compliment the great work.
Thank you.
Don?
Thank you. I will echo Matt's praise. I'm really impressed. Unfortunately, I'm double booked today, but I spent most of my time watching this Zoom meeting instead of a Russian River Environmental Caucus meeting. So you definitely were grabbing my eyeballs. So amazing job. It's really neat to see what the kids are doing, and just where this is headed. Just briefly, I love Gina's work. That to me, hearing kids getting excited about doing this and actually seeing a career path, this is, having these real world experiences really helps kids see their future. It certainly worked for me in college. So this is amazing. The water quality work, it's funny, we sampled first flush and antecedent conditions for 7 or 8 years, and your data looks just like the data we collected from 2002 to 2008. And it's we just see bacteria go off the charts. And I mean, we've so many times taken samples of urban creeks and done 10 dilutions and still aren't seeing the top, the number. It's astounding how much bacteria comes in. And like Matt said, being able to identify human generated bacteria, because one thing we definitely saw in pouring through the data that Matt's group generated with the Bacteroides study, knowing being in homeless, camps where people don't have shelter, there's almost always a presence of dogs. So even within homeless camps, there's no isolation until you get to gene, down to these gene markers and things, or ways of tying it to strictly human only. So that's going to be really neat. And the whole, the slide you showed about doing the verification samples with the labs, both in Santa Rosa and Petaluma, that just tickles me, because that's how, students and people who are not PhDs can gather data. You can validate it. And I mean, that the kids will be really excited, I think, the students, to see that validation happen. And I'm crossing my fingers, everything lines up. So that is just great work, and another great way to expose students to different career paths and get their hands dirty, literally.
Yeah,
So,
one
great
thing I
job.
actually forgot to say in the slides, for those of you that don't know, is the reason that the human gene test doesn't happen that often is because commercial labs will charge $500 per water sample to do that test. And we're looking to do it here at Sonoma State for about $50 a sample. So we still needed some money, but we can do it at a fraction of the cost. And so we're excited to be able to do that test that we normally wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah, no, some of those tests for that and harmful algal blooms, there's a lot of stuff that it gets really pricey real quick. And we did a lot of pesticide testing. Oh boy, Cal test in Napa is not cheap. So that's just great that you're able to just piggyback on those samples that are going to be collected anyways and get that verification for your process at Sonoma State. So good luck, and I'm just always excited to follow this work. Just kudos to both the staff and the faculty and the students. Amazing collaboration.
Right, I see Ludmilla has a brief comment before we wrap up here. We only have 2 minutes, so let's see what we can do, and then we'll have to set up another meeting. We have lots to talk about, y'all.
Hi. Okay. So one thing I'm not really seeing in the slides and in the presentation was the data from sites that are not homeless related, because I see testing at sites that are homeless, but and just for comparison, I'd like to see that difference. I mean, maybe even as simple as testing across the stream, on the other side of the stream from where but getting from a site that is where there's intentionally no evidence of homelessness. Okay. And then I'm not seeing, if it's data is being collected, I'm not seeing it clearly.
If I can try to just quickly share my screen for a sec and answer this. Oh gosh. Okay. Quickly, can I get it together here? So our results do have locations. So if you look at the bottom panel here, you can see all the way to the right, there's a really, really, really small pink circle, and that's a very small level of E. coli and a very difficult to get to area. And then all the way downstream, there's another really, really, really small pink circle, which indicates there was a really low level of E. coli there. And this is also a difficult to get to area. So there were areas where we didn't see any people impact, and we did see lower levels of E. coli there. But again, that doesn't have to do with just homeless people activity. That could be any recreational people activity or anything like that.
Yeah, I was seeing it at the ends, but I wasn't seeing it kind of along in the middle, you know what I mean, or at the sites where, like, for example,
you have to really dial in to see, because a lot of the areas in the middle we chose because there was a lot of human impact.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Anyways, but I mean, what I don't want to. Yes, okay, but I wasn't kind of clearly seeing. Well, you've got sites marked where there's no homeless, where it was gray in like a, and I don't,
Yeah, like
I'm not and I'm not clear whether you're testing in those sites, for example.
we're looking at the pink.
Ah.
We're looking at more. We're sampling what are fewer places than we're testing for homeless activities because we're trying to see like what's happening just upstream before the water gets to that spot where we're sampling.
Okay, I think Chris sees what I'm getting at here. Yeah,
I
as
get
far
it,
as
Ludmilla. We'll follow up. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
and the
Yeah.
other and another question are you doing any kind of handouts to people that are in the area, kind of sharing safe environmental practices, best practices? I mean, I know when I was a kid, they told us, never do anything like within 35 feet of a stream. I don't know what current data is, but so and I'm just kind of thinking, I realize that kind of messes it up from a science point of view, because you're giving people data on how to fix the problem, but there's also, but that's kind of what we want to do,
That's
rather than
interesting.
labeling it as a character problem of homelessness, so then you would from that you would end up with data like before and after, like over years, if that data was being shared, it would be, we would hopefully see less, in future on contamination. And then of course the third thing, and I'm mindful of the time here, but I just had this written down. Just even all the different types of contamination, human and other, that are the E. coli. I mean, my understanding is that obviously this is a pollution problem downstream for people using the water and for um I don't know, algae or something. I I actually I have the general sense, but is that can you just testing that, having it, okay, these are the pollution things, just to, and for the benefit of the public as far as knowing the hot spots, although it sounds like the water boards are also testing that, also, because it'd be good to know, like, oh, there's pollution coming down from a dog park or something, because if you don't want that in the water, letting people know. Anyways, enough said. Thank you.
Yeah,
No.
we're looking to create infographics that can be updated every month when we sample, and posting those presumably to Gina's website. So that's in the future. We're still kind of figuring out how to make those infographics this semester, and then definitely we want to share that information as we collect it.
I am so amazed by your work. It's like so awesome. Oops, we lost everybody. Uh-oh.
Yeah, people had to drop off. No, I think this is great. I think your perspective and your comments, Ludmilla, are really, really interesting. And I'm definitely looking forward to going forward this year and trying to reach out to have more conversations kind of on the margins and on a bigger stage, to try to frame this as, expanding the collaboration region wide. I think that's really, really important. So I'll definitely be reaching out. At this point, everybody's dropped off because everybody had to run.
Yeah.
But that being said, I've recorded the meeting. I'm going to be in touch. And are there any final comments anyone has before we wrap up and say good job and charge ahead? Or Claudia, you look like you're dying to say something.
Follow up. I thought Ludmilla's comment was really important.
Yeah.
And
I
I
did